An economic crash is coming. Crap hits the fan is coming. Bad times are coming. And there's no better time right now than to learn to defend yourself. Because there's two things specifically we need to focus on to make that happen. You don't have to be like some kind of world-class athlete to be able to protect yourself, especially if you have weapons. Now, the other day, I was teaching a sparring class in my school, and I had this young girl who every time I brought her in the ring, doesn't matter if she's going against a lower belt or a higher belt, I think she's pretty tall for her age, and she's quite formidable on her own, but she still has that mindset of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to not win this sparring match. And I think that happens with most people, by the way. You know, we even myself, when I get into a match, I'm often with people who are taller than me, faster than me, younger than me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. But of course, I do the best I can to be able to take care of myself. And I told her that it's not simply as much as your skills, even though that does come into play. It's your confidence. You can't go in there and say, oh no, I'm going to lose this. And that's just sparring in a school. What happens when somebody comes against you face to face? What happens if literally somebody's trying to mug you or take you, or whatever the case may be? You have to have confidence with that. Now, of course, that comes into first situational awareness. You need to be always looking around. And I always say, put away your phone and stuff. Crap hits the fan. I don't think a lot of people are going to have their phones out anyway. But even before then, you know, you want to keep safe. You got to put your phone away. You always have to look out. You have to watch every single person. And I say this because watching every single person means you're going to look to see where their eyes are going as well. Because I find that over 90% of the people when I go through the grocery store or wherever I go have their heads on their phones looking at packages, whatever, and are not looking around. Rarely will I come across somebody who is looking at me as well. And often we'll kind of look at each other and size each other up. And usually they're just simply demonstrating also situational awareness. So having that's important. But what happens if you are in the store? What happens if it is crap hits the fan and now somebody's staring you down? And they're not simply doing it to see what kind of like Cocoa Pebbles you're buying. They're literally saying, oh, you know what? I'm going to rob you, take you, whatever the case may be. Having confidence, having the ability to stare them down, even if you're just bluffing, is worth its weight in gold. In 1981, there was a research study done where literally the two researchists went to New York City and filmed for a few days, basically just random people doing their random things. Tried to get as much footage as they could. And then for the research study, they went into some prisons. We're not talking about just jail. Some people hear about prison. They're serving hard time, a lot of times for aggravated assault, you know, some major robbery, etc. And said, can you do me a favor, inmates, and tell me which of these people in all these videos that we're going to show you would be the victims that you would actually go after, you would find to be an easy target. And there's been many studies out there since then attracting assault victims' nonverbal cues. But specifically, the study I'm looking at is called Grayson and Stein from 1981. And it was basically a keystone study that really made it so this set the precedent as far as how they look at assaults. And if you bear with me, I'm going to read a couple of things that basically are the result of this. It's not going to take very long. The key findings were this. Criminals preferred victims who first appeared to lack assertiveness. They just don't assert themselves. They don't have that confidence. They seem distracted. And it's funny, this study goes back to 1981. They're distracted. That's before the age of cell phones. And who knows what they were distracted about, but obviously today, I'm sure it's a criminal's heyday today where everybody's distracted by everything, constantly looking at their phones and other stuff too. They also displayed signs of weakness or vulnerability. And this is what I told this girl in my class. I said, look, you can't display this weakness. You know, she's getting up there in belts. She's not really a black belt or even close to it yet. But, you know, I'm sure the person she's going against was also like, oh, no, I'm going against such and such. Everybody has this feeling inside of like, how am I going to size up against this opponent in the match, in the ring, or outside? And so having any type of sign of weakness, especially if you verbally say it, oh, no, you're going to try to steal my money, aren't you? Oh, no, that's horrible. You don't want to look vulnerable at all. You want to say, oh, is that what you're going to do, huh? I worked for the police department, Colorado State Patrol, for years after I got out of the military. And one night, there was an event going on. I don't know if they still have these, but it was like a mosh pit event. You know, you remember those? And in this building, it was literally a second floor with a look down. You could actually see in the courtyard, and down there is where everybody's like doing their stuff. And ahead of time, the building management said they didn't want anybody to be on the top part. I guess they didn't want stuff thrown down, whatever. So we, put police tape around and sectioned it off. And that was my main area for the night to make sure people weren't up there causing any problems. And here comes this guy with his girlfriend who basically lifted the police tape up and walked right over the edge to look down. And in reality, I personally don't care if somebody takes a quick look, whatever the case may be. But I was like, oh, hey, buddy, sorry, you. And I was polite, respectful. Maybe he took that as weakness. And I said, you can't be up here. And he basically turns to me and he goes, oh, yeah. And of course, then I turned around and did my, could I have taken the guy or not? It's difficult to say. He's not going to go after a cop, you know what I'm saying? But either way, I was like, yeah, leave now. And that's the first time I actually had in I don't even say altercation, but a face-to-face event like this where you show that display that you're not weak. And he stopped and they walked right off. And it was like, well, there you go. And that's what we're talking about. I mean, at that time, I wasn't bluffing. I was just out of the military. I probably could have taken him, but that wasn't the point. The point was I was showing him that I'm not weak. You can't step all over me. And understand there's people in this world, and I'm not even talking about criminals, but there's people in this world who look for and prey on weak people. That's what they do. They find someone who's weak, and they have some kind of like intrinsic thing going on. Maybe they're abused as kids, whatever. And they purposely will always try to go after those weak people, vulnerable people. The last thing that really surprised me, it says they often reflected also in poor posture and uncoordinated movements. And I guess that makes sense, right? Because if they're going to try to steal someone's backpack, if they see somebody with poor posture or they seem to don't have the coordination, a lot of criminals want simply just a grab and run. They get the backpack, even cut it off real quick. As far as the purse goes, they'll cut the strap and run off with the purse. And they want to make it, if you're uncoordinated walking, you may actually be uncoordinated coming after me as well if I try to steal it. This is not a day and age right now we're talking about losing your backpack or losing your purse. We're talking about losing your life. And this is very important. Now, I always tell everybody, being in shape, don't even just look threatening. I was in a firearms course up here in Michigan, and I won't tell you what the course was. But a lot of it was like the newbies and stuff were in there to basically learn how to shoot and stuff. And here comes this guy. He looked foreboding. And I think this is what a lot of people are going for nowadays, by the way. He looked like, it was like, wow, who's going to mess with this guy? But he comes up in his motorcycle. And when everybody pulls out their firearms, to do the practice as far as the training goes, he pulls out this, it was all for show. It was like this, I can't even tell you what kind of firearm it was. And I know firearms really well, but it was like this ridiculous looking firearm trying to look real cool. And he couldn't shoot for crap. He couldn't shoot at all. And when we had some different rounds, I said, guys, let me show you how it's done. And we basically did this. We went to the rifle area, and I had this incredibly small, tight cluster. I'm an expert marksman. And another person even had a scope, and they couldn't even do that well. But his was like not even on the target at all. But there he goes. I'm done. Rides off on his motorcycle. I applaud you, sir. At least you try to look tough. But I find that's what a lot of people do nowadays. It's literally all on the surface. Try to look intimidating. Try to look powerful. Try to look strong. Granted, you'll cave in 2 minutes, especially with today's generation, but at least you look tough. So that's what I want to tell you. I want you to understand this. Granted, you will come across on occasion a person who really does know how to fight. They really know how to take care of themselves. But here's the secret of this. Those are the ones usually not causing the problems, because it's the ones who literally are the scared, the bullies and stuff. They want to look intimidating. But if those people ever decided, I actually want to learn how to fight, as they grow up through the ranks learning how to fight, they realize, I don't need to fight. I don't need to look intimidating. And it usually is the complete opposite. So for you, let me kind of give you that viewpoint, and we're going to end off with this. Learn how to fight. Of course, you need to learn how to protect yourself. Learn how to use weapons. Don't be like the doofus on the motorcycle who couldn't shoot for garbage. Don't be that person. Practice and drill and train with weapons and without weapons. But when the time comes, and Schmuck on his motorcycle tries to look all intimidating, or this other guy tries to look intimidating, you understand that the majority of people, almost all of them who try to look intimidating, that's the key. It's just for looks. They're not tough at all. They're not intimidating at all. And they're looking for weak people. Don't be a weak person. And at the very least, if you are weak, you haven't done the training, everything yet, this happens to you tomorrow, don't look weak. Try to make it look like you are intimidating as well. But again, jump into it, get some training done. Even if you're older, I'm not saying you have to be a master in martial arts, not by any means. There's a lot of different courses. I teach Krav Maga, where in my opinion it is the ultimate as far as self-defense goes. So have those. There's a lot of classes for that. You don't even have to try about getting a belt to become a black belt in Krav. That's not what it's about. It's about being able to learn and protect yourself. But either way, make sure, because of this study, this Grayson study, that you look the part, that you're going to take care of yourself. And you'll find 99 times out of 100, if not 100 times out of 100, they will leave you alone. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.